Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Katrina Pierson just runs circles around Jasmine Crockett, once again proving that this woman does not know anything of what she talks about. Let's dive in.
So I am here to testify against this process because it's not fair. I'm just asking for the Texas legislature to do what the Texas legislature has always done, which is to be Texas and not be DC.
Thank you.
Representative Pierson, you recognize the question of the panel.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is for Congresswoman Crockett. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your thoughts on the map. I hear you, I understand. But you did mention something in your testimony that I think is worth drawing out a little bit on. You mentioned previously the two Anglo seats from before.
Yes.
Who are currently in those seats?
One of them is Lloyd Doggett and the other one is Wesley Hunt.
And does that mean one is a Democrat seat and one is a Republican seat?
Correct.
Okay. So the Democrat seat elected a white man.
Yes.
And the Republican seat elected a black man.
Yes.
Okay. And then so today you're concerned about the new Anglo seats, and the assumption that you're making is that it's going to lead to more Anglo representation.
It is.
Okay.
Because so to be clear, because I may have not been clear, these seats are not about who gets elected. They're about who gets to choose who is elected. And so, my district, while it is an African-American opportunity seat, it is an opportunity for African-Americans to choose their representation. But they don't have to elect a black person. We have a similar seat in Memphis, Tennessee, that historically was always represented by the Ford family. Harold Ford Sr. and Harold Ford Jr. had it, but now it is a white man that is representing that black seat. So it's not about the faces of the seats. It's about who gets to choose who's in the seat. And that doesn't mean that they're going to choose their own race. As you see, two Anglo majority seats, one went for a white candidate, one went for a black candidate. It's not about us as candidates. It's about the people that get to do the choosing.
Well, I would argue that based on the testimony that we've heard over the last week or so, it's both. We're hearing racism all over the place. We're hearing, people want to choose people who look like them, which apparently has been happening. And I just wanted to make it clear that, something that has not been said yet is that there are minority Republicans. I mean, there is a black and Hispanic Republican on the dais. And so I just don't think it's fair to just assume that the Anglo districts are going to lead to more Anglo representation.
Again,
but those were your words, so I'm just
I apologize if that is how it was interpreted, but my clarification is that when we're talking about the law and the Voting Rights Act, it's never been based upon who it is that gets elected. It's based upon who it is that gets to choose who is elected. And unfortunately, adding two more Anglo seats in a state that added, if we're going on the census that came out in 2021, there were only 180,000 new Anglos to this state. So the idea that we would take the bodies of Black, Brown, and Asian, 95% of what allowed this state to garner two new seats, and basically use their bodies for the benefit of making sure that a shrinking majority continue to hold on to power is wild. Again, when you start shifting people around, they found historically, I want to say it was around the 2010 redistricting, that what Texas did is they decided to add basically low propensity Latinos in one of the districts, so that again, that district would not be Latinos being able to elect their representation because they took people that they knew had a low propensity to show up.
And so on that note, with these new lines, political performance was taken in consideration.
That is what we've heard from the bill author, yes.
And in previous hearings, I mentioned specifically that in the state of Texas, President Trump did win a majority of the Hispanic voters in the state. And just to broaden that even further, those are the numbers. President Trump did win the majority of the Hispanic votes in the state. In fact, he flipped, I believe it was 10 counties in the state. So don't you think that is reflective of this map, this proposed map, that the minorities who are here with the new majority minority districts that have been created, it is reflective?
Did y'all catch that? Did you catch that? Jasmine Crockett basically admitted that there's no reason to get anyone up in arms over this redistricting, and instead accidentally admits that it's more about giving representation to people based on race. There is something called the African American Opportunity Seat. And this is what happens when you have a majority minority area. And the deal is what they'll do in the South in particular, according to the Voting Rights Act, they'll make the deal with the state legislature and say, hey, we want to make sure that congressional districts, if there's a majority of black voters there, that, well, they're going to get favored in the maps to a certain degree. However, the whole reason why anyone gets in a kerfluffle about this is because it actually dilutes the potential voting power of the Democrat Party. It's hilarious. And it's happening again as Texas is redistricting its maps based on, I think there was some sort of loophole in their state law. And so I think they had about 10 or 11 Democrat districts, and now it's going to be a projected 8. And they are just hopping mad over this issue. And Katrina Pierson here, who actually used to head up the America First policies, a pro-Trump 5014C group, a 501c4 group, and then she became an advisor to him in 2020. So she's been around some politics, and she basically sets up Jasmine Crockett for failure, and it's hilarious. Hey, y'all. Experts say they rig the markets, print the money, and manipulate the system. But here's the truth. They can't print gold. While the dollar weakens, physical gold and silver stay real, tangible, uncontrolled. When banks go digital and emergencies lock you out of your own funds, gold and silver won't need an internet connection or government permission. Their value is outside the system, a time-tested insurance policy against tyranny, inflation, and economic resets. So don't wait until the trap is sprung. Own what the elites hoard behind closed doors. Physical gold and silver off the grid, because when the system fails, real money talks. And to help you learn more about owning physical gold and silver, we have partnered with the great company Goldco, which supports this channel, which we deeply appreciate. So check out politibralgold.com for more info and see if you might even qualify for free silver. That's politibralgold.com. They don't really know what they're talking about, but they're smart enough to be mad about it, because it's diluting the congressional power of Democrat lawmakers. And they know that that's shrinking. They know that Latino voters and black men are leaving the party in droves. They know that the moment that the Latinos that have come into this country, the legal ones, are getting jobs, they're getting vehicle payments, they're starting to own their own businesses, and they're looking left and they're looking right, and they're going, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that the party that wants to raise our taxes is going to help us? How about we go with the party that doesn't want to raise our taxes? You can guess which one is which. That's the reason that there's this big shift going on, not to mention the fact that, Democrats can't govern. But here's what I'm talking about in the with respect to the Voting Rights Act. And I apologize that I'm stumbling a little bit, because I'm actually nerding out, because there's an even bigger point I'm going to make after this. Majority minority districts may be drawn when, along with appropriate historical evidence, that there's a large enough community of color in a state or locality to make up 51% of the voting population in a reasonably compact district. Ultimately, this is an attempt to give direct representation to black areas. And that's an interesting idea, and that's probably a good thing to some degree, because again, giving minorities a little extra voice is probably a good idea in the long term, particularly when you're trying to normalize relations here. Because remember, the Voting Rights Act, 100 years after the war between the states, was finally passed. It takes time for us to make up for our mistakes, but when we do a pretty darn good job of it. But the Democrats were screaming about this just the other day. Senator Padilla came out against this new Texas map, and the moment he did, something clicked in my head. So I went on Wikipedia. I looked up how many Republican seats they have and how many districts do they have. Well, they've got 52 districts out in California. There are only 9 Republican ones. In a state that on average votes 35% Republican, which means if you were to average out those numbers, let's just say it's 50, it's not 52, 35% becomes about 17. All of a sudden, there's this gap. There's about 8 potential representatives missing. I wonder how that happens. But California has its own private independent commission that draws up all these congressional districts. They do it the right way. Texas is doing it the wrong way. No. All right, Maryland 7-1 when it comes to Republicans, and they vote at a similar clip to California. Illinois is horribly gerrymandered. Massachusetts, it's bad. Connecticut, no Republicans at all, even though it's also about 35%. Actually, it's even higher. It's closer to 40%. All of these other states, run by Democrats for the most part, are gerrymandered to the bone. Meanwhile, in southern states, when we gerrymander, it is quite literally to be in compliance with federal law. Whenever Democrats bring this up, it's usually a one-time thing. I'll deal with people on the internet that bring this up. I point this out once, and they don't bring it up again. They do the same when they realize why red states take in more money. It's because that's where the food is. But I get to geek out about this politically because it's one of my favorite points to make, and it's so easy if you know where to look. Jasmine Crockett does not know that she is being set up for failure, and she falls right into the trap. Meanwhile, Katrina Pierson just perfectly lays it out, and it's a rather simple thing to understand. But nuance is difficult in politics, so most politicians won't talk about this issue because it'll easily get blown up out of proportion. Meanwhile, on a platform like this, I can explain what's really happening behind the scenes, who's doing what, what's doing who, and where the truth actually is. But ultimately, Jasmine Crockett has been cornered, accidentally says the truth, tries to backtrack it, and it's a bit too late. The cat's out of the bag. There's a difference between Democrats and Republicans. When Republicans gerrymander, it's literally because the law says we have to. When Democrats do it, it's because they don't want Republicans. That's the reality, folks. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.